Are you familiar with the terms of P40, M40, and T20? These three terms are an income classifications of Malaysian households, which stands for bottom 40%, middle 40%, and top 20% respectively. Now, notice the gaps that existed between the median income for each group. Apparently, those gaps that appear to be huge has portrayed what income inequality is. Income inequality can be defined as an uneven distribution of income in a population in which the rich are getting richer and the poor become poorer. The bigger the income is distributed, the more unequal they are. To get a better idea on income inequality, let's go back to the history of Malaysia. During British colonization, a system called divide and rule was created, where specific races were resided in a specific area and fields. Malays were located in the rural area to do farming, Chinese doing commerce and mining in urban areas, while Indian works in the plantation fields. This separation of work has caused each race to experience different level of economy and development. Chinese has better opportunity and benefits compared to others, while some races get left behind. The unbalance and the unfairness of the system has created a severe unsatisfaction among Malays, since they are not given the opportunity to develop their own economic system and was forced to follow the British rules. From there, conflict continues to arouse day by day, which has led to the tragedy of 13 May, a traumatic event that is still remembered to these days. Even from back then, we can see that the income inequality has existed, especially between different ethnics. It also shows how living in urban and rural areas can determine the income of a household due to how different the way they live and the way they earn money. Besides that, there are also other factors that lead to income inequality, such as level of education, political, those that favors the rich groups, and also globalization. Although globalization is a good thing, but it does affect the lower income groups, in which many unskilled jobs were being replaced with the advancements of technology, and this unfortunately has made people lose their job. The income inequality even become worse due to current pandemic situation in Malaysia, where people struggle to live and survive. In addition, income inequality has also created an imbalanced level of income between genders, where women in Malaysia get paid less on average than male workers, as according to the Department of Statistics Malaysia. Not only that, income inequality has also directly increased the exploitations of migrant workers in Malaysia. Most of them have a lower income compared to local workers. Some are treated poorly, and some was even abused by their employer.
Now, let's see if inequality is good or bad for Malaysian economy. Inequality can lead to incentive effect. If someone work harder and as a consequence receive a higher wage, then this is not a market failure. The promise of a higher wage is essential to encourage extra effort. Entrepreneurs require reward. Inequality is necessary to encourage entrepreneurs to take risks and set up a new business. Without the prospect of substantial reward, there will be a little incentive to take risks and invest in new business opportunities. Then fairness, it can be argued that people deserve to get higher income if their skill merit it. If a top footballer get paid 100,000 a week, this is a reflection that people are willing to pay that kind of money to watch him. Inequality can also lead to social friction. It can be a factor in precipitating riots or higher crime level. In this case, all members of society lose out. This is more pressing if the inequality is perceived to arise out of unfair allocation of opportunities like inherited wealth and monopoly power. If firms have monopoly power, they are in a position to set higher price to consumer. This leads to a redistribution of income from consumer to the shareholders of monopolies. Here, the inequality is based on an unfair distribution of power in society. The market structure in Malaysia allow for monopoly among big firms. With no real competition to keep them in check, they can control the price of the product however they wish and even restrict supply if they want. Inherited wealth give people an unfair advantage in life. It may also make them lazy as they can live off rent, profit and dividend. Now, what is the relationship between poverty and income inequality? The real reaction others toward inequality are they are simply lazy. His father is a tantri. He knows someone from the inside. I made it fully out of effort. I worked hard to get where I am today. These are some typical expressions that are sure to be heard in coffee chat every time the topic of rich and poor is brought out. Some accusation to poor people that they are just a lazy people, and a reality of difficulty to getting a job because some people with no qualification just simply apply to the job because they know someone from the inside. This will lead to unemployment because there are no job opportunities can be offered to certain qualification. Unemployment also is one of the reasons of poverty. According to the Economic Affairs Minister Mustafa Mohamad, Malaysia poverty rate spiked to 8.4% in 2020 due to the COVID-19 pandemic as many people lost their job. In 2019, the poverty rate stood at 5.6%. Mustafa said the pandemic had caused disruption to people's income, leading to many more households being exposed to poverty, especially for those in the B40 and most vulnerable categories.
Malaysia, like the majority of countries, focuses on measuring income inequality using the Gini coefficient method. The Gini coefficient is a single number that indicates the degree of inequality in an income distribution. The coefficient ranges from 0 or 0% to 1, with 0 indicating perfect equality and 1 indicating perfect inequality. Malaysia's Statistics Department uses the Gini coefficient from the Household Income Survey to calculate income inequality. From 1979 to 2019, the Gini index in Malaysia was plotted as a line graph. Throughout this time period, the year 1979 had the highest rate with 0.505. Income inequality has risen by 2% from 0.399 in 2016 to 0.407 in 2019, and it is possible that it will rise further due to the economy's poor performance during the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the Incidence of Absolute Poverty by State, Sabah, Kelantan, Sarawak, Kedah and Terengganu are the 5 poorest states in Malaysia in 2019 and 2020. Meanwhile, the top 5 wealthiest states in Malaysia are Wilayah Persekutuan Kuala Lumpur, Selangor, Pulau Pinang, Wilayah Persekutuan Labuan and Johor. This bar graph explains how the top 5 richest states have a low percentage of poverty because their urban locations have the highest median monthly household income. From 2012 to 2019, urban household income was always higher than rural household income. For 2019, the difference in income between urban and rural areas is RM2,733 Malaysia. One of the reasons why income is unequal is because people live in different areas. There are not as many opportunities or platforms to make money in rural areas as there are in urban areas. When it comes to income groups, the median monthly household income for the B40 group increased 5.5% from RM3,000 in 2016 to RM3,166 in 2019, while the M40 group increased 13% from RM6,275 to RM7,093, and the T20 group increased 16.4% from RM13,148 to RM15,301. However, there is a significant income disparity between each group that is not unequal. The median and mean monthly salaries and wages for both male and female employees decreased in 2020 due to the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and the implementation of the MCO in the country throughout 2020. According to the findings of the survey, the median monthly salaries for male has consistently higher than female since 2010. In 2020, the monthly salaries and wages by male employees were RM2,093, fell 15.5% as against RM2,477 in the previous year. Meanwhile, median value for female employees decreased 14.8% to RM2,019. The mean monthly salaries and wages for male employees in 2020 also fell by RM341, or negative 10.3% to RM2,963, while for female employees fell by RM219, or negative 7% to RM2,889 as compared to the previous year. Gender plays a role in income inequality as well. Malaysia has three major ethnic groups: Bumiputra, Indian, and Chinese. Different ethnic groups are another reason for income disparities. Between 1990 and 2060, the average household income among them was highest among Chinese. Indians and Bumiputras were the next to arrive, except for 2014 when the average household income among Indians fell. It fell to third place. However, in 2016, the rank was back to where it had been in previous year. The mean income gap between Bumiputra and Indians is 800 ringgit, while the gap between Indians and Chinese is 1,600 ringgit. This chasm corresponds to the year 1990. When the difference between Bumiputra and Indian is multiplied by 2, it equals the difference between Indians and Chinese. The government of Malaysia under the leadership of the Prime Minister is committed to helping its citizen who is in need, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. For that reason, Pelan Jana Semula Ekonomi Negara or the National Economic Recovery Plan is introduced. The government is taking an inclusive and holistic approach to Malaysia's economic recovery, and it is important that everyone is part of the journey. It has been emphasized that government social policies must take into consideration the new evidence on poverty and inequality. As the world moves into a new stage of the economic recovery from the COVID-19 crisis, government should take a longer-term view of their emergency support programs, not only to ensure financial and fiscal sustainability, but also to avoid future market distortion. The social protection programs must be long-term and sustainable and resilient enough to withstand future shocks. To achieve this, state-sponsored social protection programs have to be complemented by employers and community-driven initiatives. These are some of the lessons which we should have learned from the pandemic-induced economic crisis and to avoid the income inequality increasing every year.